Sports Talk Chicago. Here with Jon Zaghloul, and we are back and ready for today's special guest. He's covered the Bulls for 30-plus years, and today serves as the Bulls insider at NBC Sports Chicago. Please welcome Casey Johnson to the program. Casey, it's great to have you on. How are you?
I'm doing well, John. Thanks for having me back. I hope you're doing well, and happy Bulls off season to you.
What's your evaluation of their season?
That's a good question because it's a weird kind of dynamic from my seat in the sense that there seems to be quite a bit of positive energy both within the franchise and certainly amongst the fan base that kind of gets in my radar, or my sphere, so to speak. However, it has to be balanced and juxtaposed with the disappointment of not making not only not the playoffs, but the play-in opportunity with the league expanding to 10 teams. I know obviously there were some mitigating factors that made that hard with particularly the Zach LaVine unfortunate timing of landing in the health and safety protocols for as long as he did. But yeah, so it kind of has a feeling of slight disappointment at the end, but quite a bit of positive energy in the sense that there seems to be a decent foundation on which to build moving forward.
What did you expect for them this year? Were you in the boat of a playoff appearance or no?
No, but see, the problem with the preseason predictions is they all went out the window when Arturas made the trades on deadline because,
Sure.
Obviously you're basing that on a young team and, a lot of players need to make big jumps. And then, he pulled the plug on a lot of those young players and shipped them off to acquire the All-Star and the other pieces that he did. But no, I did not have them even as a play-in candidate in my preseason predictions. I had them finishing 27 and what would that be, 55 or 27 and 45. I was close on the record, but to me, all bets changed when he made the deal that he did. I mean, he said it himself. This was, a move to show that we're serious about winning, and he meant not only in the future, but winning now. And as I said before, it didn't really pay the immediate dividends that you hoped it would. And clearly, Zach missing 11 games played a major factor in that.
How'd you feel about those moves? Did they give up too much to get Vucevic, and did they give up too many draft picks from Garpax specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a good question. I mean, it really is just your opinion or your beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I personally, don't think it was too much to pay in the sense of you're acquiring an all-star. Now, you could make the argument, Vooch is not, maybe not a lead all-star. He's kind of one of those fringe all-stars, but the bottom line is he's a two-time all-star, and all you kept hearing from disgruntled members of, the fan base or the media corps or, the people that question things, including myself, was, when is this team going to get an all-star? Well, now you got two. And again, you could say Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic aren't, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I get that. But the bottom line is it's still two all-star caliber players. And, that is a good foundation on which to build. Now, obviously, this all points to a very important summer for management, and Arturas has alluded to it as much. Last season he did not make many changes coming in, didn't have a lot of open roster spots, and now this summer he will have a lot of open roster spots. So it's on him and his staff to now enact the right moves to surround these guys with the right talent.
What needs do they need to address?
Well, I mean, the big one, obviously, to me is, and has been for a while, and not just to me, but to a lot of people, is point guard. I actually heard from talking to people around the league last summer that they were going to be in on point guard, and then they chose not to. And, for the second straight offseason, I'm already hearing those whispers around the league that they're focused on point guard. And, there were opportunities to address the position last summer. They chose to go in a different direction. There's almost like too many points to make here. I don't want to have this sound too much of a criticism of Kobe White, because I think Kobe showed a lot of growth this season, and I think to me he's a very important piece moving forward. But I just don't think he's the type of facilitating point guard that makes others around him better. Again, that sounds like a critique of Kobe. I think Kobe actually had a very overall strong season, particularly the way he finished, and I'm glad he's on the roster if you're a Bulls fan, because I think there's a lot to like there. But I just think you need a facilitating point guard to kind of make others better. And that to me is the biggest need. You're probably going to need some big man depth, particularly if Tice goes elsewhere in free agency, which is certainly a possibility. And then obviously the Bulls historically have been pretty thin at wing and kind of project that way as well. So there's a lot that they need to do this summer for sure.
Casey Johnson here on Sports Talk Chicago. Casey, who stood out to you most from this past year on the roster?
I mean, to me, it was Zach. I just think it's so hard to make the jump that he did from a very good player to, in that all-star, borderline, all-NBA type player. And, I know there's still some people out there that are detractors of Zach, and want him to become a better two-way player. He wants to become a better two-way player. But just if you really look at his season objectively, particularly offensively, it was special. There's just no other way to slice it. He was in rarefied air with his shooting splits and his efficiency. I wrote that he did some math, which is never easy for me and usually quite painful. But he was 6 assists and 1 missed free throw away from joining Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and Larry Bird as the only players in NBA history to average 27, 5, and 5 on shooting splits of 50, 40, and 85.
Wow.
So, I mean, he just had a really special season, and I thought his leadership grew. I thought his decision-making improved. I thought defensively he was more engaged overall, but still needs to improve in that department, and he alluded to as much. And one thing that Garrett Temple and Zach said in the exit interviews that really stood out to me is, Garrett's just been harping on him. Just, Zach is always so well conditioned and in such good shape, but to be an elite two-way player, you just have to be on all the time, and the energy it takes to be, dominant at both ends. If you think back to guys like Jordan and Pippen, it just takes a level that even Zach now is starting to understand he needs to get to. So he always puts the work in. I'm excited to see what's next for him.
How surprising was the growth under Billy Donovan, too? Because obviously him and Boylan didn't really connect. A new coach comes in, and all of this stuff happens. Do you connect those two pieces?
I mean, I do. I think Zach would have taken a jump regardless, just the way he's driven and the way he's wired and the way he works. And I think obviously the fact that he was borderline all-star last year and didn't get it was eating at him. And he's not an individualistic guy, but, he knows that if you're an all-star, there's probably some team success that is surrounding that as well. And at the time of the voting, the Bulls were in that playoff window. So, but to your point, there's no question that he respected and connected with Billy. And, this is a pretty astounding statistic, but if Billy Donovan, finishes next season, which you never say never in this league, but I think we all agree is a 99.99% certainty, it'll be the first time in Zach's career in his 8th season that he'll have played for the same coach for 2 full seasons in a row. That's just remarkable. And so that kind of, stability and that kind of consistency combined with his respect for Billy, I think can really pay some dividends moving forward.
Should the Bulls extend him, Ben? Could they afford an extension for Zach LaVine?
To me, when you made the trade for Nikola Vucevic, you almost made yourself say you almost have to now. I mean, you don't sacrifice 2 first-round picks for my seat at least. You don't sacrifice 2 future firsts unless you're building around Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. So to me, it's a no-brainer. You extend them. How you do that, when you do that, whether it's this summer using cap space, renegotiating and, ripping up the last year's deal or waiting until he gets to unrestricted free agency and tackling it that way, that's for people on a higher pay grade than myself. But yeah, to me, when you traded for Nikola Vucevic, you all but from my seat sealed your need to extend him, and he's earned it. I mean, he's like I said before, he hasn't had a lot of coaching consistency or stability in his career. He's a worker. He wants to win. He cares for the right things. So you have to believe as he enters his prime here, he's even go to another level. So you have to pay for that. And so to me, that's a no-brainer. Yes.
How detrimental is the coaching consistency to a player? Because you could argue, too, that Lauri Markkanen also suffered from that same fate, right?
You sure can. Zach, I think to me, I thought Lauri had a good season overall, but not a great season. And, I think Zach is more accomplished than Lauri. But, yeah, I mean, to draw a poor cross-sports analogy, you hear about quarterbacks and, different coordinators and how that can stunt growth. So, yeah, there's something to it. And, Lowry's role has changed quite a bit and has been jacked around. So he's looking for stability as well. I personally think it might be elsewhere at the end of the day, but we'll see how his restricted free agency plays out. But, the difference is that the Bulls entered with high hopes for both those guys. And, Zach ascended to all-star status and Lowry moved from being a starter to reserve. Now, I'm not saying that's all Lowry's fault, but coaching decisions play a part of that. Roster makeup plays a part of that. But, I think to put the coaching situation as the sole reason for Lowry's struggle is probably overstating it a little bit.
So you don't think Lowry is returning right now?
I mean, I don't, but as I said before, you never say never in this league. What if he goes out and restricted free agency and doesn't love the looks he gets and the Bulls aren't comfortable going long-term on him? There's a slim chance. I don't think it's likely, but there's a slim chance he plays a year on a qualifying offer to placate, the Bulls' payroll, and then he moves into unrestricted free agency next summer. Again, I think that's a long shot scenario, but it's certainly one that can happen. I do think there's going to be interest in Lowry in restricted free agency, and I think, the Bulls keep saying the right things publicly, but with their actions, they've said completely the opposite. I mean, they said they wanted to extend him, and then it's their right, but they went to a number and, didn't want to go past that before the season started on the extension. And then, Larry got off to a strong start, but then had the, health and safety protocols and the shoulder injury, and then the roster changed, and the coaching staff deems him not a great fit alongside Vucevic, then it becomes a reserve. I mean, you're not going to commit $20 million a year to a reserve, and Vucevic isn't going anywhere. So I personally, they tried to trade him at the deadline. So now they didn't try as hard as they could, because I was told that they didn't engage in all talks. They just were obviously specific on their talks, the big one being with Lonzo Ball. Which was widely reported. But I don't know, it just seems like there's a lot of signs that this is headed for a divorce. But as I said before, you never say never in this league.
What do you think about Markkanen as a player? Could he still succeed in the NBA?
John, I'm probably higher on Lowry than most. But what I would say about this, he just, to me, I've been, as you know, around this league a long time. Sure. He just, to me, is like to me, he's got the feel of one of those players who just, if he goes elsewhere, he's going to thrive. It just has that feel. I could be wrong, but it just has that feel. He's got too much talent. It just hasn't worked out for him here for a multitude of reasons. And it just has that feel that if he goes somewhere else and gets in the right situation, he's going to take off. Now, is he going to be a multiple all-star? I don't see that, but I just think he's going to be better than what he's shown here. And, sometimes that just happens in the NBA. I mean, that's just how this league works. It's about opportunity. It's about fit. It's about circumstance. And, he's had a lot of things go right here, and he's had a lot of things go wrong here. And it just has a feel of kind of needing to end at this point. So we'll see how it plays out.
Let me ask you this, then. What's the lineup look like for next year, the starting five? What do you think?
No, that's impossible to predict because there's just too many open roster spots. I mean, you're going to use Penn to put in Patrick Williams. Three spots are in Penn to me is Patrick Williams, Zach LaVine, and Nikola Vucevic. Kobe White will be in the rotation for sure. Whether he's starting at point guard depends on how they address that position in the offseason. But really, to me, that's your core now is White, LaVine, Williams, and Vucevic. And then obviously whatever additions they make this summer will be, important moving forward as well. But to me, you can only use Penn to put down three starters, and the rest is TBD, depending on all the moves that this management team makes this offseason.
Do you like that core personally?
Uh, I mean, again, I heard a lot like how the Bulls going to get one All-Star, how the Bulls going to get a second All-Star. Well, they got two All-Stars now. So, I mean, is it a championship core? I don't see that. But is it a good core? Sure. I mean, but here's the other thing. We're just talking a lot, and the players say this too. They got to do it on the court. I mean, they need to make the playoffs next year. It's as simple as that. They've got they traded away draft picks to kind of move into win now mode. So they need to make the playoffs next year. Zach and Vooch need to form chemistry and play at an all-star level. Patrick needs to make a jump. Kobe needs to continue to grow. And then the management team needs to make good signings and good moves this offseason, because, you've sacrificed a lot of draft capital to get to where you are as we talk.
How hopeful are you about that, about things going well?
I have no hopes, John, because I'm an objective beat reporter. So I don't really care if the Bulls win or lose. I just cover it. But no, I'm having a little bit of fun with your question. But I mean, again, I think it's a decent core. I mean, you got two All-Stars, right? So what are we doing here? Let's win some basketball games, and particularly if the play-in tournament is here to stay, which I think it is. You shouldn't even really be in that 7, 8, 9, 10 spot. You should be aiming for a top 6 seed next year and take the play-in situation out of the equation. I mean, that's what management has said. We will not accept mediocrity here. I recognize that they just got here, but they traded draft picks to acquire a 30-year-old All-Star. So I'm not hopeful either way. I'm just observing, but the way I see it is they need to get in the top 6 next season for it to be a success.